rely on funding, and the biggest source is through our memberships. So if you aren't already a member, please consider joining our chapter membership. If you aren't, or if you are already a member, don't forget to renew. There's a little bit of a new process to get you to renew your membership, to go back into PayPal if you haven't already done that process. So the goal of our coffee breaks are to provide an opportunity for our community to engage in conversational hot topics over a cup of coffee. So I hope you all have your cup of joe to engage in hot topics over a short 30-minute break. So for our theme for today's conversation is diversity and inclusion in the construction industry. Today, I'm excited to introduce our special guest, which is Todd Merrill. Paul is Director of Electrical Pre-Construction and Sustainable Construction at Clayco, where he is very involved in energy systems, subcontract procurement, and sustainability efforts. Paul has been active with the U.S. Green Building Council Missouri Gateway Chapter for years and enjoys his time on the Membership and Marketing Committee. Paul is a LEED AP BD+C and LEED Fellow. So just to give you some guidelines on how to use Zoom, even though I feel like we're probably all pretty experts at this point, but just to level set with everyone. Option to click the grid view in the upper right hand corner to see more of the callers outside of the presenter view. The chat function is accessible at the bottom so that you can then type whatever comments you might want to add to the conversation. Please be respectful of others, allow for others to join in the conversation. Be mindful of not jumping over anyone speaking, but feel free to really talk without being called upon. But if you really want to be able to join in the conversation, you have like that hot idea you want to get in, just add that reaction at the bottom and I'll kind of note that and try to get you into the conversation when there is an opening. And then also just try to keep yourself muted unless speaking, just to avoid some background noises. So without further ado, Todd Merrill, thanks.
Hey guys, good morning. Let me see if I get this going here. Does that work for everybody? I got a thumbs up. Okay, that's good to see. Let me see. I'll try that. Okay, thanks again. Hey, thank you guys. Freddie, appreciate all the hard work you do. And Brandon, your group, the program group, this is awesome. I mean, the ones I've been able to make, I've really enjoyed these coffee breaks, nice and digestible, but it's just keeping the conversation going on a wide variety of topics. And I think that's really important. I also have to kind of give some kudos to some staff here at Clayco who really lead our diversity and inclusion efforts, Sandra and Dan Lester. And then our good friends over at People, Ron Underreiner has been a great resource. And I did reach out to a whole bunch of national organizations. There's a lot of information out there. And it's kind of overwhelming at times on a lot of topics. You know, when you volunteer, and again, I'm a proud member of the Membership and Marketing Committee. You volunteer for something like this, you don't always know what you're going to get yourself into. But I've really learned a lot, and I hope to be learning more with you all as well. Like Ron says, keep the discussion going is a good way to look at this topic.
Paul, I'm going to interrupt you. Currently, we are not viewing your PowerPoint.
All right, let's see if we can fix that. I'll stop that.
Perfect.
Is that it? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, good. Thank you very much for doing that. So the construction industry, and I'm really saying the design and construction industry, but in general, because I work for a contractor, you know, it's not unlike a lot of businesses these days where they just have this history of being homogeneous and with cultural blind spots. And all the research that I found on this, you know, it really has been that way for a long time as as with many industries, and the industry needs to be educated on the topic, and the topic needs to be talked about, it needs to be brought to the attention. And we've done that here at our company, and we're trying to do it with our subcontractors. One other thing on the construction industry is, there are those out there, the prognosticators that are saying, we're running out of people that want to go into the construction industry. And so we've got a talent shortage pending, and it's going to be vital for the success of the industry to keep things going. A lot of room for improvement. One of the main things we see within the minority business and women-owned business realm is just access to capital is one of the biggest challenges that we find. They may have the technical capabilities and they may have some field capabilities, but the access to capital is one of the biggest hindrances to what we find. Clayco has been around for a long time. Bob Clark has been a big proponent of changing the way we do business. And this topic is something that is also part of that realm. And he's been an advocate of diverse workforce since I've been here. I've been here 20 plus years. My role is involved in a lot of our sustainability efforts, but my real day-to-day work is going out and buying subcontractor work. So I'm out in the front line making the ask, finding out not only what is your price, what is your scope, but what have you included with regard to minority or women-owned business or diverse business practices. And I guess we find if we aren't making the ask, shame on us. We should be doing that right from day one. Sometimes we set it all up where we've got career fairs and all that, but sometimes it's too late. So we really are trying to get much better at making the ask day one. When a subcontractor is coming to us and wants to win the work, all they care about technically is the price, the schedule, and what it's going to take, what it's going to do to their business. But if we don't ask the ask, things are not going to change. Our perspective is a commercial construction perspective. We're really not in the residential world. We look at enterprise businesses and we look at boots on the ground workforce. Those are the numbers. The supplier industry is certainly important, but from our perspective, we're trying to actually instill bigger change in the industry with ownership and also employment. We love to share the information. Everything here is going to be available. All the websites I show everybody will be available. Like I said, Bob Clark and the leaders are really behind this, and it really helps when we have an owner who is invested in exercising some type of practice. We bring this to the table for a lot of our customers. We don't do a lot of government work. We don't do a lot of work where there are preset mandates or prescriptive values. So we're in big and small communities, and some places the resources are just not available. And so we kind of have a strategy that we try and implement in some of those markets. Some of the bigger cities, we have great relationships with the minority business councils in those areas. But ownership, client ownership of the project investment is a really big. It's a big deal. But at the end of the day, we want to make sure the opportunities are available. We want to make sure the resources are available, but we still do our business in a certain way. And we're not going to necessarily change the way we do our business. We're looking for the best and the brightest for our projects. So if you want to get on board, you got to kind of adapt to our systems. We're not necessarily changing our way to accommodate this. And it's an important point, because it's important to know that we're trying to get people to get into the way we do business or the way anybody else would be doing business. So the statistics were actually pretty hard to find on this. I really had high aspirations. I could make all these calls to the national organizations, and I was only to find there really wasn't a lot of information available. I got some of the big numbers on just numbers of firms, and I was trying to impress upon the fact that there really are still few percentage of minority and women-owned businesses. And we hear this time and time again, the resources in our community are not necessarily available. Luckily here in the St. Louis market, we have a really strong MBE and WB market. So we have access to some good resources. But as it is, if there's a big job, everybody is trying to get those same resources. So that can pose a challenge to a lot of our projects. I did ask our accounting, like we deal with 1,600 subcontractors around the country annually, and we have a really strong database of 400 MBWB firms around the country that we would draw from. And it's not necessarily there's 400 out of the 1,600, but we have access, and we're really trying to reach our tentacles out all across the country to get to find those resources. On the construction side, I think the important thing about this is just that the construction industry is lagging in the demographics of daily workforce. If women are 47% of a workforce, why do we only have 10% on a job site? There's big gaps in the construction industry. So that's why I think this industry is really ripe for improvement. So Clayco Rising is a recent initiative that we've taken upon, claycorising.com, and it's kind of a collection of all the initiatives that we've implemented, and they're based on opportunities, relationships, and accountability. And there's quite a bit of information there. I'd love to have, if you're interested at all, go take a look at it. Bob and his team have done a great job of putting this together, but I did want to highlight just a couple of features. Our bid process, CCDI, which is a big plus for us, and then our field focus, how we're handling this in the field. So with that bid solicitation, when we go to buy out a project, I mean, like I said, making the ask, as simple as it sounds, sometimes it doesn't happen. There's a million moving parts when you're trying to put together a bid proposal, and I see the contractors on here, and they all get it. But if we're not asking for this type of information as to what type of participation a subcontractor can bring to the table, then shame on us. In fact, even we look at it as kind of a tiered approach. Well, if they say, okay, there really are no MBE, WB resources available, then we say, well, what about disadvantaged businesses? What about other types of practices? How about local, regional resources that we can meet? And then are there even apprenticeship programs? I had a project I just was bidding down in Oklahoma City, and we were looking at multiple bids, and we made the ask, and some of them kind of look at you like, and they shrug their shoulders, and that happens. But some of would say, well, we have a great program where we've got a feeder program into the apprenticeship program that is really targeting minority and disadvantaged youth. And they're like, well, this is the guy. This is you're doing what we want to do. And so that made that subcontractor stand out. And as this does boil down to a project by project buying arrangement, there are long-term relationships that we're really trying to establish and get folks into those databases. CCDI is another real big success for. Yes, sir.
There was a question in the chat. If you could go back just to kind of explore or describe a little bit more about the apprenticeship program and how you encourage the trade unions to bring in more women and minority apprentices.
Well, I guess we, from the apprenticeship side, we've just found there are apprenticeship programs around the country that are not necessarily trying to find minorities or women to bring in, but if there are subcontractors who can somehow influence that, and our CCDI is kind of a good example of this, where you're actually doing a outreach into the high school community, the college community, and show them the benefits of the construction industry, and get them fed into the apprenticeship program, so that the apprenticeship programs then themselves can demonstrate what is available and include a more diverse population. With regard to MBWB participation, it really is either there or not there. And there are mentorship programs that we certainly ask our major subcontractors to participate in. There are organizations that they can get involved in, but at times it really is just either it's there or it's not available. And there are many times when we just don't have that specific one available. Okay, I'll keep going here. Thank you for the question. CCDI, again, is celebrating 5 years. It's a 501c3 non-for-profit organization available to all. Many contractors in town here in both Chicago and subcontractors are participants and beneficiaries of it, where we're targeting underemployed, underrepresented career development. We have full-time staff here. Rachel runs that. Tom Seekouse's brainchild to give real-world experience to actually demonstrate what the benefits are of a construction life. And the recent successes are, large numbers that have graduated and been trained and placed into full-time employment in the industry. We've got scholarships for college scholarships that they're offering. And really a lot of good mentorship has really been formed. We've asked the contractor communities to help, and they really have. And so I think this has been the success of a lot of different organizations, both here and across the country. With regard to our on-site safety and even our just new hiring, we've incorporated an ethics training and awareness program. So everyone that works at Clayco or anyone that steps on a Clayco job site has ethics training, because there's a lot of research that's been available on, a diverse job site is a safer job site as well. So we're just making it a top to bottom an awareness factor, and retaining the metrics of what we're either doing on the job site or how we're performing. There's a sample toolbox talk that we have, and so we're not afraid to address the topic, and we make sure everybody is at least as informed as we can. So here's kind of at least, Paul Todd's analysis of all this. And it's the one thing that I was probably the most surprised when I did my research, is just all these tangible benefits. Time and time again, I found these research studies by AGC, by the McKinsey report, by Deloitte. They just said, look, there are so many benefits to a diverse workforce. And it was business opportunities that became better, just a culture of new ideas. And as an older guy in the industry, I love new ideas. And so sometimes I do feel like we're just a little too homogenous, and we're all just agreeing with each other. Maximize the engagement, outperform other homogenous teams. And then just implementing focus group training. There's a lot of third-party entities out there that can help, or you can implement it on yourself, or certainly we're able, wish to help. The chapter's efforts with the board in the equity and inclusion statement, I think it's just to make it part of the dialogue for those that are in the chapter. Let's just keep it going. And I think Freddie and Emily do a great job of that, of keeping the conversation going. In fact, even the fact that we now have at the 20-year anniversary sponsorship level, if you sign on, I think it was $2,000, then you get a complimentary green level sponsorship that would go to a disadvantaged business, and maybe there would be some type of mentorship role there. And I think that's a exciting opportunity. So there's a lot of research available. It's all available at your fingertips, and many industries are also pushing for these initiatives on their own. And I think that was about it. I'm about 12 minutes in. How's that sound? I'll stop sharing. How's that sound?
So Paul Todd, I have a question where, and everybody is welcome to definitely jump in on this question, but I'm interested to know, in the industry, is there unconscious bias training or various different training programs that are starting to come out to make sure that we are more conscious of the way that we're talking with each other and our biases?
Well, we brought in a third party to Clayco, and it was unconscious bias training. Yes, we've had it. I know the resources are out there. So we've all gone through it, and every employee that comes in and everyone that steps on a job site has engaged in it. So yes, it is available, and it is eye-opening from my perspective. I think it's long overdue. you know, I mean, yeah.
Paul, Susan Armstrong here. I'm sorry, Hannah. Susan Armstrong here. So that,
Hi, Susan.
hi, Paul. So that bias training, was it just a natural evolution, or was there a lawsuit that prompted it?
Well, that's a good question. No, I think it was just natural evolution. You know, we've really, you know, Bob and the company have taken the time to really formulate a great team here. Sandra and Dan Lester have done a great job, and I think they put in a kind of a master plan approach. And this was one of the steps along the way. It was probably 3 or 4 years ago. We had it started, and it's continued since then. But yeah, no, I don't think there was any incident that initiated it.
Thank you, Paul.
Paul, my follow-up question, genuinely, how do you think the employees that went through the training, how did they respond? Because I've been through some training where a certain portion of the audience sits there and then they just shake their head as they walk away. I mean, it clearly just rolls off their back.
Yeah, that's a tricky one. It's almost like a political question, isn't it? I mean, it's just human nature of how people perceive information. I think our efforts are just, I know what Bob would say, well, if you've got that kind of attitude, we don't want you around. But sometimes we don't necessarily have that control. You know, if it's repeated and it keeps going and they can see tangible benefits, I just don't know why anybody wouldn't want to embrace it. And if it somehow affects their livelihood or affects, you know, their performance or becomes part of maybe a review, I just think, you know, they just need to wake up. But I know what you're talking about. Yeah, it's like green building. I was telling my wife about this presentation, and she said, well, this sounds like when you used to walk on the job sites and try and get all those guys to sort their trash. I said, well, this one is bigger than just green building, but you're right. There are going to be people with built-in biases right away. You know, they used to tell me, you take your green ideas and take them off the job site now. And those have gone. And same with the improved safety culture. We've got just a much better culture in the industry right now. I don't know, Hannah, that was a great question. Thanks.
So as a Latina female in the concrete construction industry, I will say that it's even at a bigger sense, like nationally, it's mind-blowing how homogenous the industry is. I spent some time in the energy efficiency industry, and for the first time I walked into a boardroom and there were other people who looked like me, other brown people, other, you know, Black people. It was just like, I was like floored. So I feel like taking these kinds of diversity inclusion initiatives to the construction industry is like a long time coming, because it has to start kind of from the bottom up. And in academia, there's lots of diversity, but boots on the ground, there's really not. And now, as a part of the American Concrete Institute, I'm trying to get our local chapter to look a little bit more with diversity inclusion lenses to try to get more board members and members involved. And, you know, we're just kind of like, okay, well, where do we start? Because there's not a lot, you know, there's resources out there, like you said, Paul, but it's still kind of hard to kind of move forward and say, okay, well, where do we start when we're starting with these? You know, where do we look? Where do we go? And it's that's been kind of our biggest challenge so far. But it's exciting that people are thinking about moving. Like, that's the first step, right?
Yes. Well, Karen, that's a really good point. That first step, you know, when I went back and kind of looked through everything, because as an employee here, we have a group that's doing it, and all of a sudden the information shows up. But somehow they had to create that information to begin with. And so I was really surprised at how much is available on the research and benefits of a diverse workforce. That I was like, well, this is so darn obvious. How come I'm such a knucklehead? I couldn't figure out that this is where it should start. Not necessarily, you know, the ordinance in the city that has the, you know, the 25 and 10. that's kind of where it started as like a thou shalt do this, rather than this is the reason we should be doing it, and let's adapt the industry to these levels. You know what I'm saying? It's like it started with something that was forced on you, and just became numbers, as opposed to, hey, wait a minute, there are actually some fantastic benefits to a more blended work environment. So that would be my only suggestion, to start taking a look at that, and that's a great start, though.
Paul, you make a good point that there's a real good business reason to establish a diverse workplace. For, in my experience in safety engineering, when they pick a diverse team, they work with a zeal, a first-time leadership zeal, and we brought in record results. So again, the articles I've read says that a diverse person will really, check their answers before they speak, such that, and usually they're right, but it's the caution that goes into their presentation of their information that makes them more trustworthy. I read a study like that. So yeah, it's just good business sense.
Yeah, those are good points.
I'm curious to hear from some other people on the call what your companies are doing as well.
My name's Maggie Farrell. I'm the diversity and HR manager at SM Wilson and Company. And I dropped a link in the chat that is actually for the Culture of Care initiative that has come out of the AGC of America over the past year. And it started really in the Pacific Northwest chapters of the AGC, but has expanded. And I'm not sure if other folks on the call are AGC members, but it is a great resource. And the focus is really about ensuring that we're creating these work environments, whether it's in our office space or on the job site, that are welcoming and inclusive, and a place where people can feel safe and valued. Because we do have a lot of work to do, I think, on the recruitment side and really workforce development. But as we're investing time and resources doing that, if we're not also making sure that we're creating a safe space for people to bring their full self to work, then the construction industry is not going to remain an industry of choice where people want to be a part of that. So I think there's kind of two sides to that, and it's a great resource to have for companies of all sizes, whether people are just kind of like getting started in that journey or already doing a lot of work. And then I also commented about CCDI, and I think that Rachel Bomer is doing an amazing job with that initiative. And Karen, I don't know if you're connected with her at all or part of that, but it might be a great partnership. She's working with a lot of young people, like particularly in North County and coming out of North Tech, that might be interested in getting connected to the concrete industry.
Yes, absolutely. I have that written down with big highlighters by it.
Very good points, Maggie. Thank you very much. Yes.
Yeah, she's a great collaborator and really just partnering with a lot of other construction management firms and subcontractors in the industry to address barriers. And it's cool that, she has the ability, I think, to help with the students as they're graduating and getting into the workforce for the first time. Something comes up for them with transportation or something else that's really like hindering them from being able to get to work, she can help address a lot of that, which is really cool.
You know Rachel's last name, Maggie?
Yeah, it's Rachel Bomer. I can put her email in the chat for you.
Boemer, yeah.
Thank you.
And she's listed as a contact on the ccdi.org site. Yeah, she's a fantastic. In fact, that was the first thing, when I just said, well, let's go through. And she says, look, this is open to everybody. This is not just a Clayco initiative. And that's the way Bob and Tom wanted to structure it. Great comments.
This is Amanda. I'm an architect at Trevor's. So we just this past year kind of formed an EDI group. But before the formation of that group even, we got a JUST label. So I feel like that maybe tends to be kind of more of something that's aware in the design industry, but is open to anyone. So that's through the International Living Future Institute. And it's really just kind of a transparency platform where you can look at your business practices and get a rating. For us, I think it was really great just as an awareness thing, but also made us aware to the point that we are working year to year. I think you renew it every 2 years. So we're already really excited to renew it because we already know that we've made strides and made big improvements from when we initially got the label.
Awesome.
And then also, I feel like even though at our firm specifically, we have a lot of diversity in terms of male, female employees, we do interact with the construction industry so much that even though within our firm, we have that diversity in that way, we still go onto the job sites and are dealing with construction sites that don't have the same diversity. So we still, even though we've made huge improvements internally, we have to interact with the construction industry as a whole.
What was the term that you said, Amanda? What the label is called?
The JUST label.
Okay.
And that's through the International Living Future Institute.
Okay, thanks.
And Hannah, I see you had a question there. I tell you, a lot of times we will try and pair up a subcontractor with a smaller minority contractor and try and figure out ways that they can partner together. That's been one of the most successful ways, even if they are not aware of the contractor relationship. That's been a plus for us to engage a working relationship, and then it hopefully will grow into more of a mentorship arrangement.
Yeah, and I might.
I know historically, minority contractors were brought in, but they were just paid and they were often on the sidelines and no one really helped them understand how to run their business and all the different policies and activities that go into running a successful business. So.
Yeah, Hannah, I'll give you 2 examples. So Guarantee has mentored 2 companies over the last couple of years. And the way that we try to approach it is, help them legitimately build capacity and expertise, as opposed to, like you said, where maybe historically it just would have been a pass through or some paper pushing, where, we'll help them, we'll carve out a piece of scope that they're comfortable performing. And then through the process, they're learning how to work on maybe larger projects that they wouldn't otherwise, typically have the comfort to go out and work on. So it's certainly a process, but as Paul mentioned earlier, as we start to get from, okay, this is a mandate, you have to meet these numbers. Well, let's have an honest conversation about the limited resources that are out there and legitimately help folks improve their business and grow over time. So I think we're starting to get there with the honesty and the collaboration.
Thanks, Nick.
Paul, I'll ask you a question, I guess. Well, I've got an opportunity. You bid a lot of work all over the country. Would you say St. Louis leads, lags, kind of par for the course as far as, being able to achieve some of these inclusion goals? Or
I would say it leads for sure. Because we're building, most of our work around the country is not necessarily in metropolitan areas. Probably 25% is going to be in a bigger city. 75% is in smaller communities, and in the smaller communities, that's where we find more of the lack of available resources. So here, I think we're spoiled. But like I said earlier, Clayco and SM Wilson and Guarantee, everybody is trying to tap into those same resources still here today. But I think we have it better than other parts of the country.
I know in some cities, such as Milwaukee, there are work development agencies through the city that sponsor training programs at the residential scale that then feed young people into the commercial union markets. Do you think there's a potential for having anything like that in the St. Louis region?
I thought we had it at one time. Did we not? Does anybody know? I mean, other than what we're doing with CCDI and getting them into the apprenticeship program, I'm not aware of a residential to commercial training program. Anybody else have a thought on that? Could be a gap that we're missing.
Yeah, I mean, I think the different trades kind of go about it different ways. IBEW has, a specific, workforce development program. MOCAN has kind of a pre-apprenticeship program where they, bring folks in as well. But yeah, I'm not familiar with the residential to commercial. That could be interesting.
I think what they do is I think they get them all certified for asbestos removal and one other certification, which then helps them have a credential as they move into the commercial.
Any final comments, Paul, to leave us with?
Well, I'm just happy to be learning with everybody else, and I've got some great experts here, and it's good to see a lot of friends, and really appreciate the comments. Those are all good. I hope to get better, from what I learned here, and I have a long way to go, and so I'm okay to admit that, but if you don't know what the challenge is, you'll never try and tackle it. So we're trying to formulate even a kind of a pre-construction end of things, because we truly are out there in the front end, and sometimes we don't make the ask and we miss the opportunity. We miss the opportunity for 60% of the jobs been bought out, and we have no record of, we do a lot of career fairs, we do a lot of on-site work, and as most other contractors do, but those are few and far between when we're pursuing work. When we're in their pursuit of work, we want the construction industry to know this is a big part of what we're all about.
Right.
So thanks for the comments.
Wonderful. Thank you, guys. Yes, we did record this coffee break, and I will send you guys a follow-up email with some of the links we have discussed. And Paul, if it's okay with you, I'll share your contact information as well. Yeah, this was great. Thank you guys so much. Happy Friday. Maybe
stay warm.
Get to, play in the snow or enjoy the sunshine.
Thanks again, everybody. Can't wait for the next one. Who's next?
Bye.
See ya.
Bye.